What is protein? How much do I need and where do I get it from? Well, those are the questions we're going to be answering today, and it's particularly targeted at people who are vegetarian or vegan because they struggle to get the right kind and the right quantity of protein in their diet. So stay tuned and we'll get started. Right, so what is protein? Well, protein is one of the three main food groups. You'll have heard of them, I'm sure: fats, carbohydrates and protein. And protein is required for lots of things, but predominantly people think of it mainly as being needed for building your muscles and stuff like that. It has loads and loads of other functions, but that in a nutshell is, when you think protein, think Arnold Schwarzenegger eating lots of chicken and eggs. That's it. Now, protein is really important for vegans and vegetarians because protein's made up of things called amino acids, which are like the building blocks, and unfortunately 9 of them cannot be made by humans, and you only get them from your diet. So how much protein do you need in a healthy diet? Well, you can look up a whole bunch of formulas, but basically you probably need about 50 to 70 grams a day. And if you do want a formula to work that out, well, it's something along the lines of 0.75 grams per kilogram per day. So if you weigh 100 kilograms, you need 75. God, can't do simple maths. You need 75 grams. So the average person, maybe 50 to 70. And that's how much you have to fit in. Now, getting the protein is quite straightforward, but getting the ones with the amino acids that you need is a bit more tricky. So certain foodstuffs you need to look out for. And there are lots and lots and lots of them that you can include in your diet if you're trying to get ample amino acids. At the end of this video, I'll try and put a table of a bunch of different foods and how much they contain in terms of their protein content. But there's ones in particular to look out for, things like quinoa, or quinoa. I think that comedian, I've forgotten his name, Kevin Bridges, he's a Scottish comedian, talks about quinoa. Anyway, quinoa, that's got all 9 amino acids, and in fact every single plant has every single amino acid in it. It's just that they are in such low quantity that they can be thought of as negligible unless you eat tons of that particular plant. So when the carnivores and the keto people tell you there's no amino acids or there's not the right kind of amino acids in plants, that's not true. It's just, in fairness to them, there's very little in certain plants. So I mentioned quinoa. Quinoa has about 4 grams of protein per 100 grams consumed. So definitely one to have in the cupboard as a sort of staple, because even if you just get some of that in, you're going to get the amino acids that you are maybe missing from other ones. And next up are the pulses. What are pulses? Well, pulses are basically edible seeds that come in pods. And if you think of things like chickpeas, peas, that sounds too much like chickpeas. Chickpeas, peas, lentils, things like that. Those are the pulses. And they're pretty good as well. They contain somewhere between, anywhere from 5 to 8 grams per 100 grams as well. So another store staple. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a muddy field all of a sudden, which is a bit annoying because I've just got trainers on. I probably shouldn't have come this way. Too late to return. So yeah, pulses, again, easy one to have in the cupboard. You can have them sitting for months if they're dried, and they're an easy staple to add to stews and hot pots and things like that. So definitely one to have. The one most people have that they don't realise they've got is baked beans. And baked beans contain 5 grams per 100 grams. The slight problem with baked beans is they're usually full of salt and sugar. So if you are eating store-bought baked beans and tomato sauce, then try and get the low sugar, low salt ones, and they'll be a bit better for you. Sometimes people will say, can I eat too much protein? And the answer to that is probably. But if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, I think that's very unlikely. The only people really that could eat too much protein are perhaps people that are taking protein supplements and people who are eating nothing but meat. And the reason that that's bad for you is those foods have other health implications. Things like the animal saturated fat content's pretty bad for your cardiovascular risk, and they also have increased risk of certain things like bowel cancers. So overall, the risk is low, but it's still a risk nonetheless. And the other thing to bear in mind with protein is occasionally people can have a bit of trouble metabolizing it, and if you've got kidney problems at any point, if that's ever been mentioned to you, then do speak to your doctor and check with them first, because if you do decide you're going to go on a high protein diet, then that could have implications for your kidney function. But generally speaking, people don't eat enough protein, so you'd be hard pressed to manage that. And certainly a lot of the people who I speak to that are vegan or vegetarian, they actually struggle to get the recommended daily amount. And you can obviously add supplements, but those are processed. But some of them are, a necessary evil a little bit. So things like protein powders, pea protein, things like that. You can add that to some of your meals or make them into shakes, and that could bring your protein levels up. Okay, the vegan's favourite is tofu. It's good. I don't quite know how to describe it. It's squashed bean curd, soya bean curd, and it can be used basically the same way you'd use other meats, so fried or grilled or what have you. Usually needs to be marinated a bit first, but that's got 5 grams per 100 grams in tofu, so definitely a worthwhile one to have if you're looking for something to add to your meals that tastes a bit different and gives you some protein. So tofu is next. Nuts and seeds, they have tons of protein in them. The slight issue with them is they're quite dense in terms of their calorie content, so you need to be a bit careful. Most bits of reading I come across says, say something like a handful of nuts a day. So you're not going to get masses of protein, but they do contain huge amounts. There's too many for me to just list through in a video. You'll fall asleep. So I'll maybe stick a table there and include some of the seeds and nuts and how much they contain. Okay, and then there's kind of other bit more random things, the sort of random grains, like not grains, what am I thinking? Buckwheat, things like that. They can be turned into flours and used instead of traditional flour. They're also gluten-free, but they contain a fair amount as well, sort of 3 to 5 grams per 100 grams. And I think that those are kind of where you need to get a bit more adventurous, because the standard fare of what you find in the supermarket won't have things like that. So you need to kind of go to some of the more random aisles that you've maybe never been to, or random shops, and try and get some of these kind of slightly more odder ingredients. But you can still find them in sort of larger supermarkets, and they're definitely worth having in your cupboard. And the same goes for things like some of the seeds I mentioned, like hemp seeds. I mean, come on, never seen a hemp seed in my life, but I'm sure you can get them. And then there's the other kinds of grains like spelt and sorghum. Again, they're sort of 3 to 5 grams per 100 grams. Quite hard to find those. Spelt you can find, but sorghum, I think they can get it quite easily in America, but I've never seen sorghum before. But these are, again, it's a bit of an experiment of trying to find other non-meat options for your diet if you're looking for protein. And of course, the most obvious one is vegetables. Vegetables have got tons of protein in them. It's just that you have to eat so much of the bloody vegetables to make it up. So 1 to 3 grams per serving in almost every vegetable, kale, broccoli, etc. Sorry, this video's probably felt a little bit disjointed, because I've been out filming and I keep bumping into people or cyclists, so I'm having to do a lot of stopping, and filming is embarrassing at the best of times. So when you keep meeting people, you have to keep stopping or whispering, and it does. Does that rooster again? Jeez. Anyway, so, well, he doesn't mind. Maybe that's him complaining. Right, well, last up is oats. Your boring, standard run-of-the-mill rolled oats. Those contain 10 grams per 100 grams. They also are complex carbohydrate. They've got lots of fibre in them. They keep you filled for the day. or certainly the morning if you have them for breakfast. So those would be top of the list, and everyone should have them. And you should actually get rid of all your breakfast cereals, which are terrible for you, and have oats every day instead. Right, so hopefully despite the interruptions and the start-stop nature of this video, there's some useful things in there. I certainly know I've struggled to get protein in over the years, especially since I went plant-based about 4 years ago, but I'm getting a bit better at it now. Well, I don't know, I'm sure I could be even better, but maybe this video will help me, and maybe it will help you. So as I said, I'll put a table, I'll try and stick it there maybe, that summarises all the different foods that I've mentioned and the protein content, and maybe you can find some of them. But as I said, you might have to go on safari to get some of those, but once you've found them, then you'll know where they are for next time. So keep up the protein intake. 50 to 70 grams a day should be enough, and I'll see you in the next video. Nice.